For these problems, you're going to find the products using the associative property. So remember, a product is the answer to a multiplication problem, and the associative property, it's just a math rule that says you can group your factors or the numbers you're multiplying in any way you want to. So let's look at some examples on how we would use the associative property to make finding products easier. On number one, we have three factors. We have 2, 100, and 15. All of those numbers will get multiplied together to find the product. But the associative property says you can group them to make solving the problem a little bit easier. So you can group them any way you want to. So instead of having three factors, if I grouped them, let's say I group 115, that's an easy problem to solve by itself. If I use the I Spy method, I'll have 15 times 1 with 2 zeros. Now I can take this product, 1,500, and multiply it by 2. So again, I have another problem that I can use I Spy to solve. 15 times 2, which is 30, with 2 zeros. So by grouping these in different ways, it made it easier to solve this problem, and I could do it all in my head. So let's look at number 2. 25 times 3 times 100. That seems a little difficult at first until you think about that you already know 25 times 3. Think about quarters. If you have 3 quarters, you have 75 cents. So 25 times 3 is 75. And now if you take the 75 and you multiply that by 100, it's really easy. I Spy 75 times 1 with 2 zeros. So using the associative property, you were able to make easier problems to solve. So let's look at number 3. Okay, so I could group it with 25 times 5, but that's not a real easy problem. 25 times 2 is. I know that if I have 2 quarters, I have 50 cents. And then when I see 50 times 5, that makes that easy to solve. I can do I Spy 5 times 5 with 1 zero, 250. So let's look at this one. I could group it as 100 times 5, or I could group it as 5 times 5. I think if I group 5 times 5, first, that's going to make an easier problem. 5 times 5 is 25, and 2,500 is just 2,500. If I would have tried the other way, I could have grouped 100 times 5 first, and that would have been 500. And then I would have taken the 500 and multiplied that by 5. So I would have still gotten 2,500. And that's why the associative property says you can group it any way you want to. Whichever way is easier for you to group is the way you'd want to do it. So let's look at number 5. We have 10 times 10 or 10 times 32. So if you grouped 10 times 32, you would have 320. And then you could multiply that by 10 to get 3,200. So the associative property is just a way of grouping the numbers. You just put parentheses around the numbers you want to group, multiply that first, and then multiply your product that you've got there with your other factor. So you try some on your own, and if you need help, you can come back and rewatch the video. Good luck!